just wanted to talk about raw foods a little bit, share some of my experiences and the problems I've had with it, and just to see what sort of responses I get from some of you who might be experimenting with this way of eating. My goal in wanting to stay on the raw food diet is not so much to be a raw fooder, is to feel better. I've had some ongoing problems with fatigue and kind of an achy feeling I get, and I've noticed whenever I am able to stay on the raw food diet, it seems like the diet starts to correct a lot of those problems. My sinuses work better, I can think clearer, I seem to sleep better. There's been numerous benefits, and so I'm really intrigued with this diet. And at the same time, what I've experienced is after I stay on it for a while, it starts to have a downhill effect on me. I'm good for about the first month, and then after about the first month, I start to feel weaker and weaker and spacier, and I'm not entirely sure where that is. Now, I saw a lecture by a gal named Victoria Botanko, and she had a lot to say about taking in the necessary nutrients through green leafy vegetables, and she was real big on making the green smoothies. And she also warned about not overdoing it on fats. And so I tried to take those things into consideration and to stay with her principles. And in spite of the fact that there was some benefit there, I still found myself going downhill. In fact, I wasn't the only one. I met another young lady at the lecture who managed to stay on the diet for about 6 months. And while her skin looked fantastic, there came a point where she had a problem too, and she couldn't stay with it. And so I'm sort of curious about that. And both she and I were very thin people, and I think that may have a factor there. And I only weigh 140 pounds, and when I started going raw, I was even losing more weight. So that was a bit of a problem. One thing I've noticed is if I can stay calm during the day, it's a lot easier to eat raw foods. I don't seem to require as many calories, so I know that's part of it. I know there's some psychological factors as far as, being conditioned to thinking we need cooked foods. There's a comfort factor and all that. And I'm trying to cover all the bases and look at it all. At the same time, I haven't been able to do it. The other thing that concerns me about the raw foods is when I get to the point where I can't do it anymore, at least not 100%, and I start eating cooked foods, it seems like the cooked foods make me feel very sick. And I don't like my system to be that overly sensitive to cooked foods if I'm required to eat them periodically. So that was a problem. I was going to say, I'm just kind of looking at my notes here to remind myself what to talk about. I'm also considering that, since health is my goal and not so much being a raw fooder, I'm looking at other possibilities like, well, what foods tend to make me feel really ill when I eat too much of them? And what I found is there are certain types of the day I can eat something and it doesn't have a bad effect on me. Like starches, for example. In the morning time, I can get away with starches. I have a bad habit of not eating much during the day and eating a big meal at night, and that tends to make me feel sick, especially if it's too much protein or too much starch. So those are some important factors. If I do eat proteins or cooked foods, I have to make sure I have them at the earlier parts of the day, preferably. And it seemed like some of those green smoothies help me sleep at night. So that's something that, instead of taking a sleeping pill, which I don't take those anyways, but I suppose green smoothies have a little bit of a sedative effect for me. Let me see. I was just going to talk about a couple of friends of mine that tried the raw food diet that had similar problems. One of them told me she seems to have a little problem digesting food now, and she attributes that to the fact that she went a bit extreme on the raw food thing. That's not to say that she's 100% correct in her observations. I mean, maybe she's missing some factors. Maybe she didn't do the green smoothies. I don't know. I had another friend. He was going kind of radical with this raw food stuff, and I remember he was doing a lot of jogging at the same time, and he started having some health problems. And I remember he mentioned passing out in a shower, cutting his head pretty bad. So I guess one has to approach this sort of thing sensibly. And anyway, thanks for listening. I appreciate you all listening, and if you have any good tips, I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. Thanks.